The middle market is absolutely booming. Welcome back, everyone. Today I want to walk through a phenomenon that is occurring right now in Ghanaian real estate, which is the middle market is absolutely booming. Prices are rising at a rate of knots. This housing deficit is really taking hold of the Accra rental system especially, and there is a lot of opportunity, especially with a strong city, to build considerable amount of wealth long term by addressing the middle income and the middle market, lower to middle market. So there's almost a price range for the middle market. It's everywhere from 2,000 cities all the way up to about maybe 9,000 cities, which now equates roughly to from $200 to $800. Now that the Western currencies have weakened against the city, people earning hard currencies previously could pay a little bit higher than what the middle market was. Now everybody's falling into it, which makes it a really competitive hotspot. So not only do you have locals trying to acquire in that middle market range, 2,000 to 8,000 cities, you've got returnees trying to enter the market as well. Now, with a housing deficit of 1.8 million units back in 2021, the increasing rents are showing that this deficit's probably getting worse. I've seen properties, and I was looking myself around this mid-market level, come on and go off in very quick time frames. Sometimes they're not even advertised on the internet because the demand is so high. People are using their existing networks or agent networks to get people who want to rent. There are people waiting in the wings for a long time to get the right place to rent. The demand pressures that are pushing this market really up high is the large amount of housing stock that sits at the high end, which is completely unaffordable, and the lack of housing stock in that middle market range. And it's all come about through some massive increased urbanization in Accra. Well, actually, let's look at the data. So just looking at the data, what I'm finding is overall there seems to be like a general increase in the amount of rent that's being asked for in the residential market. I'll show you an example. So this chart here is really interesting because this shows you the most typically appearing prices for whatever I've got in my search. Right now, I've just kept it wide open to Greater Accra. Now, this is the first time that I've seen that the 2,000 to 3,000 city range is the most occurring range. Now, that's $200 to $300. Doesn't seem like a lot, but in Ghana, the 1,000 to 2,000 has always been the largest amount, and the 2,000 to 3,000 has taken over, which is showing you generally the rent prices are starting to increase. The 3,000 to 4,000 mark is the next bucket, 4 to 5 is the bucket after that, 5 to 6, so sequentially you see it. But even though these are the biggest proportion of the market, you'll see that the real sticking point is around the 4 to 5 and 5 to 6,000 city mark. And I'll tell you why. There are a lot of youthful population. So let's try and look at that a little bit as well, actually. Right. So you look at the demographic profile in Greater Accra, the vast majority of people are under 35 and 39. So that means you got families with kids, right? Ultimately, that's the vast majority of people. Now, with family with kids, you can be resourceful, but ultimately you're going to need a certain amount of space. So let's say if we were to say, okay, I want to look at 2 to 4 bedroom properties in Accra, right? Now, the median is 6,000 cities. The average is 13.1. Historically, what we were seeing is the averages were around 10.8, 10.9, those kind of numbers. So there has been a jump. And if we look at the price overview again, you can see if we were to kind of total it up, 10%, another 8, 9%, another 6%, so we're about 25% of the market, and another 5%. So 30% of the market is between 3 and 7,000 cities. But that's 30% of the market. But ultimately, 100% of the demand is centered around that point, or like the large 80% of that demand. So there's really big opportunities around this space in terms of properties. Now, with all of this demand, there are some challenges that emerge. because where there is a lot of demand and need for housing, there is a lot of emergence of kind of unscrupulous players, like I had mentioned before in a previous video. All right, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to get outside on the roads so you can understand what this boom in the middle market is doing to the overall shape and real estate landscape in Accra. So one thing you'll start to realize is that the older homes that were maybe stationed on a full plot of land with lots of greenery around it are quickly being replaced, or even sometimes bought out, so that these purpose-built apartments can come up. You see some here. That is what's satisfying the local demand right now. And you'll see in the horizon just now coming up, there's a big apartment building going up here on the left hand side. You can see a crane there. That used to be a family home, and that's got to that level in the last, I'd say, 3 months. This one, big one on the left here. So these are also, they're often either targeted at locals or the diaspora. So this one here, you can see the advertising hoarding here, and they're looking for about $70,000 for a studio, which is about the going rate right now for, well, actually the studios in town are even more expensive. They're about $90,000. So that's what's kind of happening across the board all over the city. You have these purpose-built 4 stories maximum, you know, just high enough that you don't formally need a lift. Those are being built. Now, the price point for those can vary, but typically you're looking around the 6,000 city mark for a 2-bedroom apartment, sometimes even more. And what that results in is that, you know, the demand is so high, and 6,000 cities is quite a lot. So you need two parent incomes, or two adult incomes to satisfy that demand, or to be able to pay for that. And it's actually really good returns. This is where people are making really good money, because the land might have been in the family, or you pay for it in a decent area. There was one that we almost rented in Agbogba, 6,000 cities for a 2-bedroom apartment. Currently 6,000 cities works out to be around £400, which is effectively $500. These developers will build them so that they will have maybe two bedrooms on one floor and one bedroom, and then there may be 4 floors up or 3 floors up. So you do the math. The 2 bedrooms typically go for about 6,000 cities, and then the 1 bedrooms typically go for about 3,000, 4,000 cities. So let's call it 4,000 cities, or 3,000 to be conservative. That's 15,000 cities a floor, which is effectively £1,000 a floor. £1,000 a floor, 4 floors, £4,000 a month, right? Or maybe close to about $4,500, $4,600, $700 a month. That's really good money. And if you've paid, let's say, $250,000 to put it up, in USD, so £200,000 maybe to put it up, maybe more, but let's just use it for calculation purposes, and you're getting $1,000 a floor, $4,000 a month. You know, within 5 years, 60 months, you pretty much made your money back, and everything after that is just pure profit. So that's what's emerging. Because of the cost of the land as well, it's so expensive that people are opting to make better use of the land. And the best use of the land, if you're going to get a return, is to do these apartment style purpose-built apartments, and the demand is absolutely there. You can see in the lands right here, there's so many of them that are coming up all over the place. Everybody's cottoned on to that's the play, that's the best return on your investment, best bang for your buck, because $500 a month is still expensive for here, but once you start combining incomes, people start saving, they pay up front, they deal with it, and then they stay throughout the rest of the year. Yeah, guys, that's where the market's going. That's where the real opportunity is, in the middle market. If you can get an apartment for a low cost from a developer, maybe a cash-strapped developer or something like that, where they were intending to rent purely and maybe they need a little bit extra cash and now they can sell one of them, maybe you can get a good deal. Okay, so if you're looking for some custom research to uncover some of these gems, Kuro's here to help. Check the link in the description.